Okay, if you could please silence your cell phones at this time. Also, we ask that you please refrain from getting up or down during our speakers, but if you must, please do so quietly. If you're going to smoke, we ask that you be away from the buildings. Please be respectful as we are guests of the church. Also, if you have any announcements in between speakers, please see the group secretary. Matt? Okay. We have a home group member that's our first speaker tonight. It's been pretty cool to watch her grow in sobriety, so I give you Susie.
Hi, I'm Susie. I'm an alcoholic. I was up here last week. I got my first year. I got a globe. And yeah. So I'm glad to be back this week. I'm supposed to tell a little story of what I was like and what happened and what I'm like now. I was raised in New Jersey, close to the shore. And if anyone knows, that's always a good party during the summer. And I just thought that was kind of what life was. I didn't, especially when I was 16. But I grew up with a decent family, a good family. My mom and my dad. My dad worked in New York, and he left at 7 in the morning, got home around 6, and then he would usually go to meetings or things like that. But usually when my dad came home, he always had a drink. In fact, always. 3 or 4, and he'd pick up and he was the mayor of our town, he'd go to the meeting, he'd go to a coach or whatever, but he was able to function. And that's how I grew up with my dad. My mom, she hardly ever drank. She would have one drink and she'd start getting giggly. I have a brother and a sister, and they were all alcoholics, and my older sister, she passed away, she also was an alcoholic. So on both sides of my family, there is alcoholism. Just to let you know, my cousins, there were 11 of us, range from 50 to about 60 years old, and now there are 4, and 6 of them have died from alcoholism, whether it be that they took a gun to their head or they died from the disease. So it runs rampant in my family. As far as a kid, I had a good childhood, like I said. I played the piano, I twirled the baton. I thought I was pretty special as a kid. And I guess until about 12 years of age, things were good, And then around 13, my older sister, had been hit by a drunk driver. She was on the back of a motorcycle. And she died a couple of days later. And because of that, it impacted my family immensely. And all of us, my brother and my sister and myself, my father and my mother, we all kind of mourned in different ways, but not together. And in that way, I started drinking. I remember, I liked alcohol when I was 5. I would love the cherries that my mother had in her Manhattan, or my dad. I loved them. And my sister and I would fight over them, and give me child aspirin. I would climb. If I thought I only got 2, I would climb up and get the whole bottle because they were good. And if I had more, I know it would be better. So my mom had to hide them from me. When I was 16, I know I was drinking every day. There's drugs in my story, but drinking was always something that I always came back to. I got in trouble, but I was real quiet. I was very, very shy. So people really I didn't stand out, and I always kind of got out of trouble in a way because I had a brother. He was 2 years older than me, and he always got in trouble. He was named Crash, and he always got in trouble. And so I just kind of slipped it in, and even though I was called Little Crash, I just never got into as much trouble as my brother. I got my first DUI when I was 21 down at the shore. Went to AA for the judge, and that was it. I went to college. You know, I drank all the time. I knew I drank differently than anyone else. I knew that if there was a six-pack or a beer, I wanted to have that last one. I was always like kind of conscious of how many you had because I wanted to have that last one. I needed it. And, you know, there were times where I would hide it in my purse and that kind of stuff when I was 20. I went to school. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to major in, and I figured, well, I'll leave and I'll go back when I decide. And I did. I went back to the shore, and I married a guy named Todd Labod, and he was a bartender. And I really thought this was the way to go. And that we were together for 2 years, and then we got married, and we were together for 2 months, and that was that. So it hurt a great deal, you know, and I decided to pick myself up, and I said, okay, I'm going to work in Manhattan now. That's what I've always wanted to do because my father did it, and I wanted to be very much like my dad. I just thought the world of him, even though I was exceedingly intimidated by him. And so anyway, I did. I drank. I worked for an alcoholic, an architect. That was good during the days because I also was doing drugs at night. Make a long story short, I was a good drinker for a long time. I got into trouble at college again. But, you know, this time I started, when I went back to school at 30, I decided, you know, I can do this. So I disciplined myself to the point where I had a very regimented schedule. I ran, worked out, and I could drink a little bit at night. And it was really tough on me because I knew on those Sundays that came around, I would totally get blacked out drunk. And that was something that I was used to all the time. Why I never got into a car accident is amazing to me. I'm very fortunate, and so is everyone else in this room with me driving. When I met my husband, who we're divorced, or we're getting divorced, when I was in graduate school, and I started to feel like I was getting a little crazy, so I decided it was time to get married, and he was going to calm me down, you know, which he did for many, many years. And but my drinking started increasing because I couldn't run from it. We would move from state to state because of his work, and every time I moved, I would get another job, but it never really mattered to me. I just really wanted to drink, and so I did. And until about when I was 40, I realized I was drinking too much, quarts of vodka. And, you know, I tried the wine, and it was like I had, oh my gosh, I would have like 25 bottles of wine that were, you know, I had to get rid of in the morning, you know, during the week for those garbage men, you know. Anyway, that you all know that story. So I got sober, and in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was sober for a couple years. I decided it was time for me to go back and drink. My husband had given up drinking completely for me and with me. He enjoyed it, not drinking. And I decided that was time for me to drink again. And I found somebody else who would allow me to drink. So I drank. And that was just 9 years. Foreclosure, bankruptcy, meeting a sociopath, seriously a sociopath. And no, seriously, I opened a closet and there were 4 bags. He brought all these bags of stuff into my house. I opened it after he left. It had 5 women's history of their credit cards, where they lived, their bank statements. It turned out that he was a sociopath. He had 3 in Fort Lauderdale, 2 in New Jersey, and now he was working in Memphis, Tennessee. 2 of them brought him to court. He vanished, but they were awarded $1 million. He was a true sociopath, and that began my downfall. And hence we moved to Sarasota, moved to Tampa. I get jobs and drama. And finally, I ended up where I was evicted, and I had 2 policemen come to my door. And I mentioned that last week who my mother had finally said she didn't know where I was going to go. So they Marchman acted me, and which was obviously the best thing that ever happened in my life. I can't tell you what happened is obviously I went into rehab for 7 months, and I'm now a year sober. During that time, the cliches and all the catchphrases that I heard, they bored me to death. But I figured, this is time for me to just stop and start listening, because I never thought in my life that I would be completely broke. Absolutely nothing to show for anything. I was, I had no place. I was homeless. That's basically, I was homeless. And I just, this is where I was. And so I listened. I sat and I listened. I was, obviously I had to listen, but I did open up my ears and I listened. And before you know it, surrendering was a really big step for me. And you'd say, I would say to people that I talked to, I don't think I'm really an alcoholic. Here I am. I'm like, really? My denial was so strong. So it boggles my mind. Here I am. I can only say that for my sobriety, it's brought me to a place where I'm comfortable in my skin talking to you about my life, and I really enjoy going to detox and talking to those people. I realized, I'd been there for an Axe detox for a month and a half. I know how that is. That is not fun, and I have. I guess the one thing that I'll just say is a short story and then I'm done. Should I be done? Is it 2 minutes? Okay. My short story is this. Okay. When you're drinking and you're in an addiction, you really don't feel like solving any problems, And I realized 3 weeks ago that I had a nail clipper, and it broke. The little pin came out. And I realized how many times I've had a nail clipper that breaks, and I throw them away all the time. Or I just, I wouldn't have the time to sit and figure out where that pin goes. And, really. So now in my sobriety, the mindfulness and my act of being just deliberate in the moment, I did take that nail clipper and I got that pin in. It was very easy. I solved the problem, and in my addiction, and that, that was just a petty thing, but that's how I was living my life. I just completely didn't, I didn't want to solve any problems. I don't know if it's because I didn't have the faith in myself or because it was too risky, or what I really think is that I was just plain old kind of lazy, and drinking was easy for me. So in the sobriety that I have, I can't say enough about my sponsor, Monica, who has helped me go through the steps. I've gone through the steps. I haven't got past 8, and now I'm back on 4 again. But I am taking my time. And I'm learning, I can't help but say that I do believe in a higher power, and it's helped me get to this point. And I truly try as hard as I can to get into that divine spirit, the one that I share with you and you share with me in my sobriety. And I want to thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Susie. All right. I've got Mr. Chris Carpenter reading the traditions.
I'm Chris Carpenter. I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 traditions short form. 1. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself through our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4. Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5. Each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6. An AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8. Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9. AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10. Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, I got Mr. Bryan here to do the chips.
I'm an alcoholic. We have a chip system here at the Fourth Dimension. We have a silver chip for anybody new or coming back and want to join this way of life. We have a red chip for 1 month, 30 days. Gold for 2 months. Oh-ho! That's Bradley, everybody. I got green for 3 months. Blue for 6. What's this? Purple for 9 months. You don't have anything? Purple's for years too? Purple for years. 1 year or multiples? All right, thank you. Hey!
All right. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight. I know her pretty well. So, she is a home group member, and she has very good sobriety. And so I'll give you Miss Monica.
Hi, I'm Monica. I'm an alcoholic. And I'm going to take my shoes off because I will fall over standing here. So, in case you guys are wondering why I got shorter. My sobriety date is September 11th, 2006. I have a sponsor. My sponsor has a sponsor. I sponsor other people. As Wes said, this is my home group. And I was trying to think of a way to relate how I feel about being up here tonight. And here's the only thing I can come up with. They have these big Las Vegas shows, and maybe it's a show that goes on every week, and you have Cher and I don't know, all of these famous people that that have lost out of my head right now, and then 1 week, there's something really big going on in Reno. So everybody's in Reno, so they call the guy from the back that washes the dishes to come up and put on a show. So that's kind of, I'm like, okay, but it's okay. It actually makes me a little more nervous that there's less people here. I'm not sure why, but the truth is I'm up here for some sort of reason, and that I have some sort of story to tell, and I didn't really get a lot of notice. I think it was about 5 o'clock when Chris called me and asked me to speak, which is a good thing. And I'm thinking he couldn't even get the dishwasher up here, but that's just my thoughts on that. And but, the good thing is that I didn't have all of this time to sit around and think about what should I say and, what should I tell you guys, and, because it would get really muddled if I had any clue what I was supposed to say when I came up here or what I wanted to say. So I did the same thing that I gave Susie, because I called Susie right after that and said, you're the 10-minute speaker tonight. And I told her, just take a deep breath and pray, and it'll come out of your mouth what whoever it is supposed to hear. So, and my thoughts are that maybe my message is not for every person in the room, and maybe my message is only for one person in the room, and it's just quite possible that the message is for me, because I don't know. So, anyway, what it used to be like, my childhood story has changed over the past 5 years and so, because my perspective has changed in that time. So I think every time I tell the story of my childhood, it's extremely different. But I was basically raised by just my mother. She was not an alcoholic. She did like to go out and have a good time, and I did get to go experience a lot of that with her. I've spent some times in bars and that sort of thing. But she was just there for other purposes. My mom, and I've heard this a lot, but my story is not any different than most people's. My mom did the best that she could with what she had at the time. So I don't fault her, and I don't, tell my story that this is her fault. My mom is not the reason I'm an alcoholic. But we moved a lot. I changed schools at least twice a year from kindergarten to 4th grade. And after that, a minimum of once a year until high school, when I just refused to move or to change schools. We still moved, but I managed to go to the same school. And my mom, she, chased after different men and here and there. So that's what we did. We went to different states and, but I got to experience a lot of different things. Now, my dad was in the Army, and my parents were divorced when I was really young, and I really didn't have a relationship with my dad growing up. And I mean, he would I have these vague memories of him popping into my life every now and then, or going to visit him, and I grew up this little girl trying to figure out where the heck, why doesn't my dad want to be around me? And, my friends have a dad, and I don't have a dad. And these other men that were in my life were not, they didn't really fill that space. And then when I was 14 years old, I got a letter from my dad, and he was in Germany at the time. And he explained to me that he was an alcoholic, and that he had had a really bad car accident on Thanksgiving, and he'd been in the hospital for a really long time, and the person that he hit in the accident had been in the hospital even longer than him. And he told me that, he was sober now, and I don't really remember exactly what the letter said. Now I know that he was telling me he was in AA. So my first drink's really boring. I was 12 and I liked it, and I had the same effects that most people had when they had their first drink. But I really didn't, I don't remember how much I drank in between 12 and 16. I mean, I probably had some drinks. I remember sneaking my mom's liquor or things like that. But, what I want to say so that I don't get caught up in the story is, I'm not an alcoholic even because my dad was an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic because of what I went through with my mom. I'm an alcoholic because I'm an alcoholic and I have an allergy. And what happens to me when I drink alcohol, I can drink one drink. But from the time I drink that one drink until the time I drink another drink, I'm obsessed over how I'm going to get that other drink. And I can say I'm going to drink one drink, but maybe I won't. Maybe I will. I don't know. I mean, and for me, that's what makes me an alcoholic. I have no defense against alcohol. once I take the first drink, just like it talks about in our literature. And, and I was able at some point later to read that and realize, wow, yeah, that's me. It's not about how I was raised and even what I did when I was drinking. It's just about the fact that, it was an obsession to me. I was always spending time thinking about how I was going to drink, even as a teenager. So the year of I think it was 16th or 17th birthday, my dad bought me a ticket to fly out to California to visit him. And I spent the whole summer with him, and the whole summer going to AA meetings. And he introduced me to Alateen, and I liked everybody, and I thought they were really nice, but I didn't get it. But my dad was better, and I liked that. And he had told me, I want to be a part of your life, and I want to be your dad. And of course, I was, again, a teenager, and told him, you haven't been my dad all these years, and I'm not interested. But secretly very happy to finally have a dad in my life. So when I went home that summer, that's when my drinking started. And I don't remember how, I can't tell you what happened, but, I hung out with good people. None of my friends drank like me. And we went out to parties, and I was supposed to be the designated driver, but I was the drunk one, and my best friend, to this day still says, I was always the designated driver, because that's what would happen. We would go in, and I'd go, well, I'm just going to have a beer or whatever, whatever was there. And by the end of the night, I was usually that girl sitting at the table trying to outdrink the biggest guy in the room, and so proud of myself. I look back on that and I go, really, I thought I was this really classy lady because I could outdrink the biggest guy in the room. And that's what I did through high school. And I slept during the day in classes, and people still remember me as the girl that was asleep in class. If I went, I barely passed my classes because I didn't go very often. My mom worked third shift, and her favorite thing to say to me was that she trusted me, and she didn't know what I was doing. So my curfew was 7 a.m. when she got home from work. So, I'd come in at 7 a.m. My mom would come in. I'm still dressed from the night before, and I'm going off to school and sneaking back in the window to sleep. And, I don't know. I don't know how I graduated high school. Technically, I got my diploma. I didn't graduate high school. My senior year finally caught up with me, and they told me that I couldn't walk with my class, and I had to go to summer school. And so that's how I got my diploma. And so somewhere around senior year, I met this guy. I don't know, I knew him for a few years, but we were friends. And he didn't drink like me either. But he seemed to tolerate my drinking okay. He took care of me when I got drunk. Our first date, I was completely smashed. And we went to a movie, and I was drunk, and he had known me one day at this point, and he took me home and, made sure I was, safe. So, of course, it seemed like a good idea to marry this guy because he would take care of me, make sure I got home okay. So we got married. I was 21, and just continued to drink, and nobody ever called me on it. Nobody ever said, hey, you drink too much. I thought I hit it well, or didn't realize how much I was drinking, or didn't think that there was anything abnormal about it. I honestly didn't know. Even knowing that my dad was an alcoholic, it never occurred to me Like, it just never crossed my mind that maybe I was too. You know, I'm not like those nice people that I met in California. So, life got a little boring. I couldn't finish college. I kept, you know, I didn't want to go to class, and, you know, so I decided it would be a good idea to join the military. And I went into the Coast Guard, and I drug this, now I realize was a hostage. I mean, people say that, but it's kind of true. You know, I drug him along with me, and first duty station, Key West, Florida. So, and anybody that's been to Key West knows that that's like the greatest place in the world to drink and it be accepted. Because they close like in the morning sometime, they sweep the floors and they open up again. And it was fantastic. And I partied every night. I was stationed on a boat, so I did go underway on the boat. And that was okay because, you know, I didn't, at that point, drink underway. But we pulled into ports places, and I've been all over the world, and I can kind of tell you about the bars. I mean, you know, like, I've missed out on so much. And I managed to find the group of friends that not only did go straight to the bars, but made sure I got home. They took care of me, you know, carried me home. I made friends with the biggest guy because he could lift me over his shoulder and carry me on the boat. And so I had been at this point married about 2 years and realized that I really didn't need this guy to take care of me anymore because I had other people and I was in the military. So short version of that story is we got divorced, and he did. There was a point where he said, you know, I think you drink too much. And you know, I find vodka bottles all over the house, and that's not normal. And I thought it was normal, and I thought he was just being a jerk, and he didn't want to have fun. You know, so I was like, see ya, you know, send him back to North Carolina. So I spent a few years from that point just really having a good time, you know, just drinking and partying every night and, you know, incomprehensible demoralization is now what I know it to be. But at the time, I didn't see it that way. I thought I was having fun. But, you know, I was lonely and like all of these things. And it was somewhere around this time that I started thinking, you know, the alcohol's not quite working. Like, something's not working, because it always made me feel better, always made me feel more accepted. I didn't really go into my childhood a whole lot, but I always, just like most people say, you know, I didn't feel good enough and all of these things, and I was uncomfortable around people, and, you know, so the alcohol, that's what it did for me. Then I could be the one, you know, dancing on the bar, you know. So I ended up in Hawaii, stationed on a boat out of there, and it's boring because it's the same story. You know, I did the same things. And met another person there who just wanted a normal life and thought that I was capable of having a relationship and a normal life. And 6 months later, we got married, because that made sense. And I had a son with that marriage, and I always think I regret the marriage just because, you know, some people aren't meant to be together, but I have this beautiful boy, and worth what I went through. Probably not worth what I put him through, but, you know. So we were married a couple of years, or I don't know, a year and a half maybe, and I got stationed in St. Pete. That's how I ended up here in Florida. And I looked at my watch and forgot what I was saying. Oh, so anyway, life kind of went on, and he had been in the military also. He was in the Marines, so we never really spent a lot of time together. So when we both ended up in Florida together, we suddenly realized that we really just didn't like each other. I mean, you know. So my drinking increased. definitely increased, because now I'm not stationed on a boat. And what I forgot to say was in Hawaii at some point I was drinking underway as well. But now I'm stationed on land, and he didn't seem to care that I drank, or again, I thought I was really good at hiding it, and this is kind of when water bottles came about, so I could, put it in water bottles, and he didn't drink water, so, so I thought that I was doing very well. Still never occurred to me that normal people don't wake up in the morning and drink like half a bottle of vodka, go to work, go in the bathroom, drink at work, come home and drink some more. I didn't know. I knew people didn't do that. I just didn't think that I was not normal, if that makes any sense. And, we got settled. We were in Largo and joined a church, and became very good members of the church. I was the Sunday school superintendent, and drunk every day. And I don't know, something happened. At this point, even larger amounts of alcohol were not working anymore. And I wasn't sure what to do about it. And we had a church event that we both had to go to. And on the way to the event, I looked over at my husband and I said, I can't go. And he's like, what are you talking about? You can't go. And I said, I'm drunk. And he's like, drunk? What are you talking about? And I was like, I don't know. Something just broke in me. And I said, I can't go. I'm drunk, and I'm drunk all the time. And what happened after that, I'm not really sure. I don't know if I was kind of in a blackout or it was just a lot, but I don't remember. But what I remember with complete clarity is that night, he told me, he said, look, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know why you're drinking all of a sudden. And he said, but if you don't stop, then I'm going to leave and I'm going to take Cameron with me. And I believe this was the first step for me, because I said, you know what? I don't think that's going to stop me. And I knew I meant it. That threat of leaving me and taking my child was not going to stop me from drinking. And long, boring story about what happened in between there, but he left me and took Cameron at some point, and so we were divorced. And then I started kind of thinking, well, maybe there is some sort of problem. And I forgot. The Coast Guard sent me to rehab. And they sent me to this place in Tampa that I can never remember the name of. And they told me, the Coast Guard said I was going to be there a week. And then I got there and they said, no, this is a 28-day program. You're going to be here for 28 days. And I was like, I can't be here for 28 days. I got a son and I got this, And now my now ex said, I'm not going to do rehab and AA the rest of my life. This is not my life and not what I want. So I've got that on me. And every day I'd go in and tell that counselor, I don't want to do this. And, you guys can't make me stay here. And he would say, you're under orders. I was in the military and I was under orders to be there. And I threatened false imprisonment. I spent a lot of time thinking about what are and I said, this is false imprisonment. And in the counselor, and by the way, we're at 4 days probably at this point. And he just said, you know what, it's not worth it. You're taking up a bed from somebody that needs it, and, you're not ready, but I'll see you again. And I just want to point out that he never saw me again. I never went back there. So, but it did, and now the ex has left, and basically I don't have custody of my son. And I spent some time drinking, but like I said, the alcohol quit working. If the alcohol did everything for me back at that point, that it did when I first started drinking, then I never would have stopped because it helped. And it was, but now I was just miserable and sad and lonely and pathetic. So I went like a whole year and didn't drink. I didn't go to AA, and I was miserable. I mean, just miserable. And I came home every night and I went to bed or watched TV or, but I was not around people because I couldn't be. I couldn't be around people. They were horrible. And I was, I had no solution to this terrible spiritual malady that I had. After about a year, I didn't really get into the story with my dad, but we ended up having a pretty close relationship, and he got really sick. He didn't drink. He never did drink again, but he had every complication in the world from smoking, and he died in 2005, and I had not been drinking when he died. He never one single time, and we had conversations weekly. He never said, Monica, I think you have a drinking problem, or maybe you should go to AA, or never mentioned it to me, never said anything about my drinking. And I did find out later through a relative that he knew. And my relative asked my dad, how do you deal with it? And he said, I pray for her every day, and I know, and I lead by example, and I know one day she'll find her way. I didn't find this out until my dad died, until I was in AA myself. And so after Dad died, I started drinking again. And the other part of the story about the year that I didn't drink, because this is an honest program, is I did drink a lot of NyQuil because I was sick a lot, just so you guys know. But, I felt like I proved I'm not an alcoholic. An alcoholic can't go without drinking, and an alcoholic doesn't have a home, and an alcoholic doesn't have a job, and I had all of these things. And because I had gotten out of the military, but I had a job, and so I had all of these things, so I was fine. But after Dad died, I just kind of, I drank again. And within a very short period of time, I didn't have a job. I didn't have much money. I lost my home. I didn't lose my home, but I had to sell it because I couldn't pay the bills, and ended up basically homeless at one point. And luckily, I had a friend that let me stay at his house for a little while. But so I kind of got to that point where I thought that alcoholics were on a smaller scale. I mean, like I've never had a DUI. There's a lot of nevers, but I know they're in there. I know they're waiting for me if I ever decide I want to drink again. I had what I now think of as a spiritual experience one night. I was at home and I went to bed, and I had been drinking earlier that day, but at this point, I really wasn't drunk. I don't know if I was out of alcohol. I don't remember. So I'm laying there, and it's like 9:30 at night. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't be in my own skin anymore. And I didn't know what to do. Like, I was just completely helpless. And what happened was, after I got out of the rehab, they made me go to some AA meetings. And I went as long as I was required to, but I sat in the back and didn't listen. And I don't know what any of you people were talking about. But I remembered that there was a 10 o'clock meeting. This was in Largo. And I remembered where it was, and I thought, there's nothing else I can do, So I went to the meeting, and didn't catch it right away. I stayed sober for about 9 months, and the statement in the big book that says half measures availed us nothing, that was me. I was half measures. I went to meetings every day. And I got a sponsor, so I could say I have a sponsor. And when I went to these meetings, all I did was, there were open discussion, and I'd raise my hand and complain about my day and how miserable I am and how this whole sobriety thing sucks and you're all stupid. And I did this a lot, to the point where nobody even wanted, they saw my hand go up and it's like, oh, geez, you know. And guess what? That didn't keep me sober. And I say that because that's not what worked for me in this program. And I've been around just long enough now to see that doesn't work for a lot of people. And I you know, don't drink and go to a meeting. That's what they kept telling me, and that's what I did, and I'm still miserable. I'm like, why am I so unhappy? I might as well be drinking, because now I got to live in my own skin. I'm not drinking, and I have to go to these stupid meetings where these people are like smiling and they have stuff. And I still remember, like, these people, they had drapes, you know, like I never had drapes, and I just have to tell you that because it comes later in the story. But they had stuff, and they were happy, and they weren't drinking, and I hated them because I didn't get it. Why can't I just go to a meeting and not drink, and I'm not happy? So I ended up drinking again. And it didn't last long, like a couple of months maybe. And that the alcohol didn't work again, other than now I think I'd lost another job at this point. And I was being evicted from my apartment at this point. So I came back in and I found a sponsor, and I said, I don't understand. It didn't work. I'm not happy, and I don't know what to do. And I'm going to meetings every day, and I'm not drinking. And my sponsor's like, are you working the steps? And I'm like, well, I kind of already, you know, I do that stuff every day, you know, and, you know, I believe in God, and yeah, I've probably got some defects, and you know, I never really hurt anybody, so, like, I don't really need to make amends, and I don't get sitting down and writing out my life story as I thought it was, and, you know, I prayed to God when I was drunk, and He didn't help me then, so, you know, now you're telling me, and helping other people, forget it. I'm not doing it. And, you know, and I did. I went over that with my sponsor, and she said, that's your problem. That's why you can't stay sober, and that's why you're not happy. And it made sense, you know, because when I finally started asking people, you know, why are you so damn happy? They told me, because I work the steps, because I have a spiritual program, because I read my book and I take the suggestions in my book and I work with other people, and now I'm happy. And, you know, I didn't have anything to lose. So that's what I did. And I'm close to the end. Okay. All right. Dang it. I didn't spend enough time on the recovery part. Okay. So, so I did. I took her suggestion. I worked the steps. The God, I found out that the God, as I understood Him, changes daily and still does, and that's okay, because He always gives me exactly what I need. And I went from, like, job skipping and not really having a home or money and all of these things, and God provided for me a way to go to school and get my bachelor's degree, and now I'm in a master's program. And I don't know how this happened. This is the girl that literally graduated high school with a 1.9 grade point average. It's possible. You know, and not only did I graduate, but I graduated with honors, you know. And I'm not saying that like I think I'm this great person. I'm saying that because I didn't do that by drinking. I didn't do that by not drinking, and I didn't do that by going to meetings and complaining about how bad my life is. I did that by taking the suggestions, doing what was suggested by people who've done it before, And I swear on my life, it works. And if I don't get any other message across, to anybody that's trying to figure out why you've been around and you're not happy, and things are still miserable, and you're going to meetings and not drinking and that kind of stuff, just try it. There's not really anything to lose. The worst that's going to happen is that you're going to actually make an amends to somebody that you actually did harm, even if you think you didn't. And the fourth step is not a life story, by the way, which I was mistaken about. So, and what I forgot to mention is this broken person who couldn't manage a relationship and definitely had no business ever being in a relationship, just got engaged to the greatest guy ever. No, we have a good relationship, and we both are in the program, and good, bad, or whatever it is, they say don't mix with people in the program. I've heard that, but we stay out of each other's program. We respect each other. We love each other. We work together as a team. And these are all the things. Do you know that people do that? Like, I honestly had no clue. Like, 2 marriages, I had no clue that people, worked as a team and they told each other stuff. Who knew? And he doesn't have to carry me around on his shoulder. I don't think he would. I don't know. But unless I was sick, maybe. And it's a real thing. It's a real relationship. And that's one of the gifts of this program. And I have a great job, and I help other people. And I wake up in the morning with a purpose, and I go to bed at night knowing that I did the very best that I could do for that day. And I still have to ask myself that every day. Did I do the best that I can do? And more times than not, the answer is yes. And if the answer is no, I know what to do. I know I'm not mean to people and then walk away anymore. And I used to do that. It happened this past week at work. I said something mean to someone, and it ate at me all day. And I'm telling you, that's my higher power. That's work in this program. That's where it talks about, we make amends as soon as, we realize it. And I really had to go back to that person and go, I was wrong, and I'm sorry, and I'm not going to do that again. And the clicker there is that I can't do that again. It's not just words like it was when I was drinking. Now I have to say what I mean and mean what I say. So I'm really thankful for this program. I'm thankful for my dad's prayers, because I believe that's part of the reason I'm here today. And, I'm thankful I don't have to go in the back and wash dishes after this is over, and that you guys are here. So thanks a lot.